In Inside the Third Reich, Albert Speer writes, I was called to the Obersalzberg with my sketches. Waiting in the anteroom at the Burghof, pale and agitated, were Leitgen and Pinch, two of Hess's adjutants. They asked if I would let them see Hitler first. They had a personal letter from Hess to transmit to him. At this moment Hitler descended from his room upstairs. One of the adjutants was called into the salon. While I began leafing through my sketches once more, I suddenly heard an inarticulate, almost animal cry. Then Hitler roared, Bormann at once! Where is Bormann? Bormann was told to get in touch with Goering, Ribbentrop, Goebbels and Himmler by the fastest means possible. All private guests were confined to the upper floor. Many hours passed before we learned what had happened. Hitler's deputy had flown to hostile England. The two adjutants were arrested, as the harbingers of bad news used to be at the courts of ancient despots. Friedrich Alexander Karl-Heinz Pinch was one of the Hess adjutants that broke the news to Hitler and who was arrested for being the bearer of bad news. This bad news was to have a very negative consequence on his life. The message was delivered and Hitler called for Bormann, who in turn had Pinch and Leitgen arrested. On the 12th of May 1941, both Pinch and Leitgen were kicked out of the Nazi party on Bormann's instructions. Under interrogation, Pinch informed the Gestapo about what he knew of the history, preparations and purpose of Hess's flight. Then both he and Leitgen were sent to Sachsenhausen concentration camp. In 1944, Pinch was released from Sachsenhausen and went into the Wehrmacht. He was quickly promoted to lieutenant. However, he was captured and as a Soviet prisoner of war was handed over to the Soviet intelligence agency, the NKVD, for questioning. He was tortured, so much so that he was unable to use cutlery to eat. The results of this torture came out in 2010. A 28-page notebook from 1948 was discovered in the Moscow Special Archives by Matthias Uhl of the German Historical Institute in Moscow. It was written by Pinch. The notebook claimed that Hitler knew all about Hess's flight plans in advance. According to an interrogation transcript from that time, Pinch is said to have claimed that Hitler reacted calmly after reading Hess's letter. Hitler calmly listened to my report and dismissed me without comment, Pinch wrote. The Fuhrer had known all about Hess's flight for a while, the adjutant claimed in his report, because Berlin had also been negotiating with London for some time. The flight, Pinch writes, occurred by prior arrangement with the British. Hess's mission, he adds, was to use all the means at his disposal to achieve, if not a German military alliance with the United Kingdom against the Soviet Union, at least the neutralization of Britain. Copies of his statements were sent to Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin, Foreign Minister Vyacheslav Molotov and Laurenti Beria, who was head of the NKVD. Pinch used vocabulary commonly found in Soviet propaganda which suggests that this was dictated to him whilst he could still write, or after his wounds from the torture had healed. The Cold War had already begun, and Pinch stated that the reason he wanted to go public with this information at this particular time was that reactionary circles in the United Kingdom and America are striving to unleash a war. The adjutant's statement ends with the words, "The facts I am reporting confirm that the United Kingdom, by promoting Hitler's aggression against Soviet Russia, acted in accordance with its old principle of using foreign hands to remove the chestnuts from the fire." This language is classic communist speak. However, we do know that this is not true. What is clear is that the NKVD wished to recreate the past to suit its agenda, the same way as the current Russian regime seeks to change history to suit its goals. The version of history that the NKVD sought to create was one where the Western allies wanted an alliance with Hitler, of course forgetting that it was the Soviet Union's own alliance with Hitler that started the war in the first place. Pinch was tortured, so we cannot blame him for anything he wrote whilst in NKVD captivity, and the torture shows that he didn't do this voluntarily. I would suggest that in order not to have a second round, he did what his torturers wanted. And who would have done differently?